my thinking was like, I have to find, where does Paris exist today? Where is that area where I am working with the Leonardos and the Da Vinci's and say the Da Vinci's and the Michelangelos of today in technology and R&D and science? It wasn't. I found my answer like halfway through the journey, and actually that answer was Singapore. Question was, where is Paris today? And the context behind that question is quite simple. If you look at, do you know about the Medici's and the way they funded Michelangelo and the way they funded like Leonardo da Vinci and stuff? Okay, so in during that era, Florence and Paris were the centers for art and creativity and innovation. Yep. And if you were a painter, if you're the best of the artists, there's only one place you could go. Because if you were not there, you were not innovating at the edge. You were not doing the best artwork and the best kind of color technology and all of that stuff, right? You were not getting the best projects. So my thinking was like, I have to find, where does Paris exist today? Where is that area where I am working with the Leonardos and the Da Vinci's and say the Da Vinci's and the Michelangelos of today in technology and R&D and science? It wasn't super obvious in 2015, 2016 that Silicon Valley is that place, right? There was a time when Google, Facebook, all of this happened, but then there was a huge downturn of innovation in Silicon Valley. And so I spent some time in the valley. I spent some time in Amsterdam. I spent some time in Bangalore and Kerala in India. I spent time in Singapore and a few places. Obviously, spent some time in London. I had lived there for a while as part of banking work. Um, and it really just took uh, a lot of these ecosystems. My plan was eventually to also spend some time in Japan, Tel Aviv, and a few places as well, which were also centers of innovation. But I found my answer like halfway through the journey. And actually, that answer was Singapore. And the reason and it's like people laugh at it and like surprise at it. But if you look at it, Singapore has all the right factors that you need for it to be the Paris. Like it had a great excitement. There was a lot of great kind of startup incubators coming up. SG Innovate had just been founded, and there was a huge push for like deep tech investments. A lot of people were realizing that startups are the way to go, and they were quitting their jobs to start. There's a insane excitement. If you went to there were tons of hacker houses. You would go to these places, you would code for 48 hours on Red Bulls. So, and it was safe. It was investable. It was a great place to then travel to Bali and Phuket to take some time off and reflect on things. And it had the government, like Seeds Capital and EDB, are the we're surprised in Singapore, they are the largest investors in deep tech companies in all of Asia. And the government were effectively like the Medicis.
Wow. I would like to hear your thoughts on whether, in general, how do you think about people who say maybe the education system in Singapore and across Asia that focuses more on memorization doesn't have quite as much opportunity for critical thinking, for building, and that sort of thing? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously, I wouldn't say that's 100% not the case. There's a reason why these narratives exist. There's definitely some percentage of truth to some of this stuff. But I would say that, let me take a step back. We have hired some of our best interns and some of our best early stage hires are people from the who are just finished their JC, junior college for those who are listening, like this just before university, and have not yet decided on which university they're going to enter or are about to enter the university. They've been some of our most smartest and ambitious people. Um, just a great example is someone that I interviewed recently and 6 months ago, and they had like posters of NASA and moon landing and stuff like on the back wall and an F117A stuck on one of the stuff, right? And I think I feel like it's not the case. There's definitely a large portion of parents who want that to happen, but I think a large part of the owners relies on government and the kind of companies that have been built effectively in Singapore. So for the longest time, even when we graduated, remember I told you like there was not many options. The good thing about the US is that people have the options to, like, hey, I'm going to move to Silicon Valley or LA to work in the space industry or aerospace or Google or Facebook, one of these places. So I think for the longest time, the only options available was banking and consulting. But that has not been the case for the last 7, 8 years. Some of the best engineering is done in Singapore. Did you know that actually from iPhone 8, every single camera that's here, the entire optics and the software is done in Singapore.
Wow.
So we don't know that, but yeah, Apple does hire a large amount of people to do that in optics and photonics. There's tons of deep tech folks that are now building stuff. We have quantum computers being built in Singapore. We have quantum sensors being built in Singapore. We have at least 10 different companies who are building all parts of the satellite ecosystem in Singapore. We have had self-driving cars being built before Waymo and Tesla self-driving even existed in Singapore. But a lot of them actually struggled with the government's mindset to not deploy it as fast as they were innovating. And so there's been a little bit of lag to get adoption of deep tech in. But I think when you look at the mindset of people, as more of such options become available, we see a huge influx of applications from university, high school, junior college, polytechnic coming our way. A huge influx, actually. People want to work at innovative stuff, but traditionally the options have not existed. And I think a lot of the onus lies on companies like us to actually reach out and to do more education at the university level, do more hiring at the university level, which most companies don't bother.